Hi, welcome back. This is Unit 1, Section 2, and the first video for this lesson. This is Ms. Clemens-Brenton, and in this video, we'll look at squares and square roots. The square root of a number is the opposite or inverse of the square. Remember, a square number is the product of a number multiplied by itself. So in this case, 4 times 4 was equal to 4 squared, which is equal to 16. 16 is the square number because 4 times 4 produces 16. So the square root is the factor that multiplies by itself to get the square. So in this case, 4 is the square root because 4 multiplied by itself produces the square, which is 16. The symbol for square root is the radical sign, as seen here. So square root of 25, when you see that radical sign over 25 like that, means find the square root or the number that multiplies by itself to produce 25. 5 times 5 gives 25, so 5 would be the square root. Find the square of each number. So if I want to find the square of 7, I would simply multiply 7 by itself. So 7 times 7 is 49, so 49 is the square of 7. Find the square of 12. Well, that would be 12 times 12, and 12 times 12 is 144. So 144 is the square of 12. And this question is a little spicy, as indicated by this hot pepper right here. So it's asking us to find the square of the number, and they're giving us a square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3, and if I need to find the square of 3, then 3 squared is equal to 9. So you have to be careful with some of these questions. They're a little tricky. Example 2. Find 2 squared. Well, 2 squared means 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. 10 squared, or 10 to the power of 2. That means 10 multiplied by itself. So 10 times 10 is 100. And this one again is a little tricky, as indicated by the hot pepper. It's a little extra spicy. So it's telling us to find the square root of 16 squared. Well, 16 squared is 256. And if I need to find the square root of that, then I would find what number multiplies by itself to give 256. And the square root of 256 is 16, since 16 times 16 is 256. So essentially with this question, we square it and then we unsquare it, or we do it and then we undo it, and we end up back where we started. Find the square root of each number. So to find the square root of 64, I think what number multiplies by itself to give 64? Well, 8 times 8 is 64. So that means the square root of 64 is 8. For example B, what number multiplies by itself to give 256? 16 times 16 is 256. So 16 is the square root of 256. So question C is asking us to find the square root of 14 squared. So this question again is a little tricky, as indicated by that hot pepper. So the square root of 14 squared means we're doing it and then undoing it, because it's telling us to find the square root of the number being squared. So if I'm going to do it and then undo it, I'm just going to end up with the number that I started with. So the square root of 14 squared is just 14. Example D. This one is a little extra spicy. So it's telling us to find the square root of the number. The number that they're giving us is the square root of 16. So the square root of 16 is actually 4. And then the question is saying find the square root of that. So the square root of 4 is actually 2. So you need to make sure you read the questions carefully and that you're completing the question as it's asked. Example 2. Find the square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1, since 1 times 1 is equal to 1, square root of 1 is just 1. Example B. Square root of 81. 9 times 9 is 81. So therefore the square root of 81 is just 9. And C, again, a little extra spicy. They're asking us to find the square root of 37 squared. So because they're telling us to square root it and square it, That's like taking 2 steps forwards and then 2 steps back. You end up where you started. So the square root of 37 squared is just 37. I wouldn't actually have to square it and then unsquare it to figure that out. Please proceed to the next video in this lesson.